So today the Council organized a panel discussion to celebrate the anniversary of the International Covenants on Civil and Political Rights and on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights, sponsored by the Russian Federation with the participation of the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Lavrov. We were quite surprised to see that a state that Russia, which has quite a low human rights record on the protection especially of civil and political rights, took such an important initiative. During the panel, the Human Rights House Foundation took the floor and asked to the panelists how the Council should address particularly restriction to the rights to freedom of association, meaning that civil society is the leader in the promotion of civil and political rights and in contributing to the outcomes and to the reports of the committee. We particularly raised the case of Belarus. Belarus does not submit a report to the Human Rights Committee since 2001, and so making 20 years since the last time the country was reviewed. And in addition, he even executed death punishment while the committee requests interim protection measures. Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. At the occasion of the 50th anniversary of the International Covenant, the Human Rights House Foundation deplores that universal rights inscribed in it have not become reality in too many places of the world. The intention 50 years ago have not translated, and too many states are indeed not only violating those rights at home, but also weakening the international system set up to hold violators accountable. We believe this panel should be a means to raise the attention to such a problem. To the panelists, how do you believe should the Human Rights Council address legislation that constitute a violation to the right to freedom of association, which is not only guaranteed by the ICCPR, but is also one of the essential freedoms for the realization of all human rights? Legislation affecting the ability of civil society to promote human rights is indeed a threat to our common ability to fulfill the mandate received 50 years ago. We call upon all governments to widen civil society space, rather than finding means by which NGOs can be controlled. Mr. Chairperson, the Covenant established a mechanism to review its implementation in all ratifying states, the Human Rights Committee. It is worrying that some states ignore the reporting obligation. For example, Belarus doesn't report to the Human Rights Committee since July 2001. The last review of the country took place almost 20 years ago. Belarus has even carried out death sentences despite the call for interim protection measures issued by the committee. We would like to hear from the panelists how we should today address this situation. Mr. Chairperson, 50 years ago, the intention of the International Covenant was to establish minimal common and universal values and rules. Genuine willingness by the authorities of any country is indispensable to ensure the fulfillment of a state's obligation deriving from the Covenant. We look forward to answer and reaction from the panelists. Thank you, Mr. Chairperson.